Welcome to Japan, a country where ancient traditions meet futuristic technology. Here, centuries-old shrines stand beside shimmering glass towers, and monks in orange robes meditate just miles away from high-speed bullet trains. From the calm temples of Kyoto, where the scent of incense fills the air, to the buzzing neon lights of Tokyo, where technology shapes every moment, Japan is a land full of contrasts and wonders. This is a place where old and new exist in perfect harmony, where a humble tea ceremony carries the same respect as the latest robotics innovation, where people bow in greeting, a gesture of deep respect that has lasted for thousands of years, even as they carry the world's most advanced smartphones. Japan's beauty is not only in its landscapes, but in its spirit, in the discipline of its people, the precision of its culture, and the balance between nature and progress. In this video, we'll explore Japan's incredible journey. From its mythical beginnings and the age of the samurai, through isolation and rebirth, all the way to its rise as a global symbol of innovation, peace, and creativity. So sit back, relax, and join us as we travel through time, across mountains, temples, battlefields, and neon streets to uncover the fascinating story of Japan, the land of the rising sun. Every nation has its origin story, and Japan's begins not with history, but with myth and legend. Long ago, the ancient chronicles tell of two divine beings, Izanagi and Izanami, the creators of the Japanese islands. With a jeweled spear, they stirred the sea of chaos, and when they lifted it, drops of water fell and hardened into the first island, Onogoro, the sacred birthplace of Japan. Their descendants, according to legend, became the gods of nature, wind, fire, and the sun. From them came the sun goddess Amaterasu, the most revered deity in the Shinto faith. Her light was said to give life to all things, and from her bloodline came Emperor Jimmu, the first emperor of Japan. That's why Japan is still known as the land of the rising sun. But beyond the myths, archaeology tells another fascinating story. Over 14,000 years ago, long before empires and samurai, the Jomon people lived across these islands. They were hunter-gatherers and early artists, creating some of the world's oldest pottery with intricate rope-like designs. They lived close to nature, in forests, near rivers and by the sea, honoring the spirits believed to dwell in trees, stones, and mountains. This deep respect for nature would later shape Japan's culture, art, and religion for thousands of years. Then, around 300 BCE, new settlers arrived from the Asian mainland. They brought rice farming, bronze tools, and weaving, marking the start of the Yayoi period, a time when Japan began to change from small tribal villages into organized communities. Here, the seeds of Japanese civilization were planted, the roots of a nation that would one day become one of the most advanced on Earth. As Japan moved into the Yayoi period, life began to change dramatically. The people learned to cultivate rice in flooded fields, a skill that would become the foundation of Japanese society for centuries. With the arrival of new technology and bronze, iron, and weaving, came new forms of organization and trade. Communities grew larger. Leaders emerged. And slowly, small clans began uniting under powerful chiefs. This marked the beginning of the Kofun period, around the 3rd century CE, named after the massive burial mounds, or kofun, built for rulers. These tombs, shaped like keyholes, can still be seen today, silent witnesses to Japan's early power and artistry. One clan began to rise above all others, the Yamato clan, based in what is now Nara Prefecture. They were strong, organized, and spiritually connected to the sun goddess Amaterasu. From this clan emerged Japan's first imperial family, a dynasty that continues to this very day. Under Yamato rule, Japan began to unify. The people developed new systems of government, adopted writing, and started communicating with neighboring civilizations, especially China and Korea. From China came the concepts of governance, Buddhism, Confucian ideals, and the Chinese writing system, which would become the base of Japanese language and literature. This period was the true birth of Japanese culture, when art, religion, and politics started forming the identity of a nation. The people of Japan were no longer just island tribes. They were becoming one people, sharing a common faith, a common language, and the beginnings of what would become the Japanese spirit: balance, honor, and respect for harmony. As Japan entered the 6th century, a wave of new ideas arrived from the Asian mainland, ideas that would change the nation forever. From China and Korea came a philosophy of peace, meditation, and enlightenment: Buddhism. At first, it clashed with Japan's native Shinto beliefs, which centered around nature spirits called kami. But over time, the two faiths blended beautifully, shaping Japan's spiritual heart. Shinto gave Japan its love of purity and nature, while Buddhism gave it compassion, discipline, and the search for inner peace. During this period, Japan's capital was established in Nara, and this era, from 710 to 794, became known as the Nara period. It was Japan's first true age of civilization. Grand temples were built, like Todaiji, which still houses one of the world's largest bronze Buddha statues. The imperial government began to form, modeled after China's system of bureaucracy and law. But Japan's culture wasn't simply copied, it evolved into something uniquely Japanese. When the capital later moved to Heian-kyo, modern Kyoto, in 794, a new golden age began, the Heian period. It was a time of elegance, poetry, and refinement. Noble families, especially the Fujiwara clan, ruled the court and lived lives of art and beauty. The Heian court produced some of the greatest works in Japanese literature, including the Tale of Genji, written by Lady Murasaki Shikibu. It is often called the world's first novel, a story of love, honor, and life in the imperial palace. Art, calligraphy, and music flourished. The Japanese language developed its own writing systems, hiragana and katakana, and the capital of Heian became the beating heart of Japanese civilization for over 1,000 years. But beneath this beauty and order, something powerful was stirring. A new class of warriors, bound by loyalty and honor, ready to reshape the nation forever. As the peaceful glow of the Heian court began to fade, Japan entered a new and turbulent era, the age of the samurai. The elegant world of poetry and art gave way to the clash of swords and the rise of warriors. By the 12th century, powerful clans battled for control of the empire. Among them, two great families stood above all: the Taira and the Minamoto. Their rivalry culminated in a brutal civil war known as the Genpei War, which ended in 1185. Victory belonged to Minamoto no Yoritomo, who would go on to establish the first shogunate, a military government, in the coastal city of Kamakura. Though the emperor still existed, real power now rested in the hands of the shogun, Japan's supreme military ruler, and at the heart of his rule stood the samurai, the warrior class who lived by an unbreakable code called Bushido, meaning the way of the warrior. Bushido was more than just a set of rules. It was a way of life. Loyalty, honor, discipline, and courage guided every samurai's actions. To die with honor was better than to live with shame. Their swords, the katana, were not just weapons. They were symbols of their soul. For centuries, Japan was ruled by shoguns and protected by samurai. The Kamakura, Muromachi, and later Tokugawa shogunates would dominate Japanese history, each bringing its own balance of war, culture, and stability. During this time, Japan faced invasions, most famously from the Mongols under Kublai Khan in the 13th century. Despite being outnumbered, the samurai fought bravely, and legend says their victory was aided by the kamikaze, or divine wind, typhoons that destroyed the Mongol fleets. The samurai became more than warriors. They became the protectors of Japan's spirit. Their values of honor, respect, and discipline would shape the nation's character for generations to come. But after centuries of war and conflict, Japan was ready for something new, an age of peace, beauty, and isolation from the outside world. By the early 1600s, Japan was weary of endless wars between rival clans. Out of this chaos emerged a powerful leader, Tokugawa Ieyasu, a master strategist who united the nation after centuries of conflict. In 1603, he established the Tokugawa shogunate, marking the beginning of a new era of peace and order. The Edo period. Under Tokugawa rule, Japan closed its doors to nearly all foreign contact. No trade, no missionaries, no influence from the outside world. For more than 250 years, the country lived in self-imposed isolation, a policy known as sakoku. Only a few Dutch and Chinese traders were allowed into the small port of Nagasaki under strict supervision. But while the world changed outside, Japan flourished within. This was one of the most peaceful and culturally rich periods in its history. The city of Edo, now modern-day Tokyo, grew into one of the largest cities in the world. Merchants prospered, towns expanded, and a thriving middle class emerged. Art and entertainment blossomed like never before. The colorful world of ukiyo-e, pictures of the floating world, captured daily life in woodblock prints. Kabuki theater entertained crowds with bold stories and dazzling costumes. Haiku poetry celebrated the beauty of simple moments, the sound of rain, the sight of cherry blossoms, the whisper of wind. While the samurai still held social prestige, they no longer lived by the sword but by the pen, serving as administrators and teachers. Education spread, discipline deepened, and traditions such as the tea ceremony, calligraphy, and flower arrangement became cultural treasures. Japan had found balance, a harmony between order and creativity. But this peace would not last forever. Far beyond Japan's shores, the world was changing rapidly, and soon foreign ships would appear on the horizon, bringing an end to centuries of isolation. Today, Japan stands as one of the most advanced nations on Earth, a land where the past and the future live side by side. In Tokyo, skyscrapers touch the clouds, trains glide at lightning speed, and robots greet visitors in hotels. Yet just a few hours away, in Kyoto or Nara, time seems to slow down. Monks chant in ancient temples, and cherry blossoms fall softly over centuries-old shrines. This is the essence of Japan, a perfect harmony between tradition and innovation. The same spirit that once guided samurai and poets now drives engineers, artists, and dreamers. Japanese technology leads the world in robotics, automobiles, and electronics. Its culture, from anime and manga to sushi, kimonos, and festivals, continues to captivate people across the globe. Everywhere you look, Japan's influence shines in art, design, gaming, and lifestyle. But beneath the bright lights and modern wonders lies something deeper, a quiet respect for harmony, nature, and community. In every bow, every cherry blossom festival, and every cup of tea, you can still feel the heartbeat of 1,000 years of tradition. Japan reminds the world that progress doesn't mean forgetting the past. It means carrying it forward with grace. Narrator, closing. From ancient myths and samurai battles to technology and peace, Japan's journey is one of resilience, honor, and beauty. A nation that rose from isolation and ashes to inspire the entire world. Thank you for joining this journey through the story of Japan, the land of the rising sun. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of culture, history, and human spirit. Narrator, soft tone, sayonara. And may the spirit of Japan always remind us to live with balance, harmony, and respect. For more than 2 centuries, Japan lived in peaceful isolation, untouched by the outside world. But in 1853, that peace was shattered. Across the sea from America came a fleet of black, steam-powered ships led by Commodore Matthew Perry. Their cannons glistened in the sun, symbols of a new age. Perry carried a letter from the U.S. president, demanding that Japan open its ports to trade. It was a moment that changed history forever. The Japanese government realized that if they refused, they could face invasion or destruction. So, in 1854, Japan signed a treaty with the United States, ending its long isolation. The sudden arrival of foreign powers created deep shock and confusion within Japan. Some wanted to resist the Westerners, Others saw the need for change. This division led to unrest and eventually the fall of the Tokugawa shogunate in 1868. Out of the ashes of the old feudal system came a new beginning, the Meiji Restoration. Power was restored to the emperor, Emperor Meiji, who became the face of a new and modern Japan. In just a few decades, Japan transformed itself from a feudal society into a modern industrial nation. The new government sent students abroad to learn science, engineering, and politics. Railways, telegraphs, and factories were built. Western clothing replaced kimonos in government offices, and modern schools opened across the nation. The military, once dominated by samurai swords, was modernized with rifles and warships. The old class system was abolished, and the people were united under a single goal: to catch up with the West. By the early 1900s, Japan had become a powerful industrialized empire, a nation no longer isolated, but ready to stand as an equal among the world's great powers. But with modernization came ambition, and ambition would soon lead Japan into some of its darkest chapters. As Japan entered the 20th century, it had become a modern power, proud, industrial, and ambitious. In just a few decades, the once isolated island nation had built railways, warships, and factories that rivaled the West. Japan's leaders believed their nation was destined to lead Asia. This belief fueled expansion, first in Korea, then in Manchuria, and later across Southeast Asia. Victories in wars against China and Russia shocked the world. Japan was no longer a small island nation. It was an empire, but ambition has a cost. In 1941, Japan entered World War II, joining the Axis powers. The attack on Pearl Harbor brought the United States into the war, igniting a brutal conflict across the Pacific. For years, Japan fought fiercely, showing unmatched courage and endurance. But by 1945, the tide had turned. Cities lay in ruins, industries destroyed, and millions suffered. Then came two moments that would forever change humanity: the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In August 1945, under a sky filled with silence and sorrow, Japan surrendered. The war was over, but the nation lay in ashes. Yet even in its darkest hour, Japan's spirit did not die. From the devastation rose a powerful determination, not for conquest, but for peace, progress, and rebuilding. Under American occupation, Japan began an extraordinary transformation. A new constitution was written, democracy was born, and the military was disbanded. Factories that once made weapons now built cars, radios, and televisions. The people, once warriors, became builders and dreamers. Japan's recovery became one of the greatest stories of resilience in human history. Out of tragedy, a new Japan emerged, peaceful, creative, and strong. Out of the ashes of war, Japan began a journey that stunned the world. With cities destroyed and industries gone, few believed the nation could recover. But Japan proved that strength isn't only found on the battlefield, it's found in the spirit of its people. In the late 1940s and 1950s, Japan focused on rebuilding from the ground up. The government, guided by new democratic values, invested heavily in education, technology, and infrastructure. People worked tirelessly, long hours, 6 days a week, united by a shared goal: to restore their homeland. With help from American support and smart economic reforms, Japan's industries roared back to life. Old weapons factories turned into car manufacturers, electronics plants, and steel mills. By the 1960s, Japan was producing goods that the world admired for their quality, precision, and innovation. Companies like Sony, Toyota, Honda, Panasonic, and Nintendo became symbols of excellence. The bullet train, the Shinkansen, debuted in 1964, connecting cities at breathtaking speed and showing the world a new vision of efficiency. Tokyo hosted the 1964 Olympic Games, marking Japan's triumphant return to the global stage. The once broken nation now stood as a symbol of progress, peace, and technological brilliance. By the 1980s, Japan had become the second-largest economy in the world. Its cars filled global roads, Its electronics powered homes, and its culture, from anime to cuisine, began captivating hearts across the planet. This era became known as the Japanese economic miracle. It wasn't just about money or machines, it was about transformation. It was proof that with discipline, unity, and vision, even a nation in ruins can rise to greatness once again.